I had a lot of fun playing Pokemon Legends Arceus, and the new open world experience and gameplay was a big part of that. But today, I want to talk about a different aspect of games that I like to focus on, which is their user interface design and user experience design. To explain it in the simplest terms, UI usually refers to the visual things that you can see and interact with. UX design encompasses UI and is about how the interface feels to use. For example, I really like the UI UX of the Pokédex. I love how aesthetically it matches the ancient time period of the game by being a physical book, which is different from the more technologically advanced Pokédexes that previous Pokemon games have used. And there's more information like Pokemon research tasks and habitats that need to fit on the Pokédex, but just can't be crammed on the screen. So instead, they're layered in the UI and can be accessed with the press of a button as indicated here. It's also really easy to access things like filtering Pokemon by region and sorting Pokemon. In addition to the Pokédex, this game consistently shows that a lot of thought went into making good UI UX decisions, such as the map and the battle system. These interfaces show you the information you need in a readable way and make key actions easy to use. So we have all this pretty good stuff, and then you have the photo studio. And it's pretty bad. In Legends Arceus, there's a photo studio in the village run by this old man. The purpose of the photo studio is to center yourself on the screen so that you can take a screenshot capture with the Nintendo Switch. You can change your pose, your facial expression, the filter, the screen color, and even add a Pokemon next to you. But actually doing all these customizations is a huge pain in the ass. For example, look at me here. I'm in position to take photos, and let's say I want to change my pose. What the heck is this menu? I know what these words mean, but I don't really know how they'll look, so I have to select each one and cycle through them to see what each one looks like. And why are the next and the back options part of this list too? So I'll have to click on next to get to the next tiny menu. Click on each one of these again to see what they look like if I don't know what they look like. And then for back, here it's kind of unclear what back even means. Am I going back to see the previous options I just looked at, or back to go to the previous menu? And in that case, it does the latter. The issues are the same for changing your facial expression. And as you can see here, it takes a lot of time to change each one. And now, let's say I want to change the filter, the screen color, or maybe add a Pokemon next to me. Even though I'm literally standing right here ready to take a picture, I don't have the option to change those here. Instead, I have to leave this area and then talk to the old man to do those things. When I want to change the background screen, you'll see the same problems that have been mentioned before, except now it's even more time consuming and there's just a really long fade to black before he shows each single screen. So that takes a long time, but changing filters is even worse. So let's say I want to change the filter. And I think the nostalgic filter sounds cool. And he says he did something, and there's literally nothing that you can tell happened. So what you have to do is you have to take photos to see what the change actually looks like. And if you don't like it, you gotta just say never mind. And then you gotta walk back over to him and say you want to change the filter again. The last thing I want to mention about the photo studio is adding your Pokemon. Selecting the Pokemon itself is pretty easy, as this Pokemon selection interface is used in other places in the game. And once you're in position to take photos, you can direct your Pokemon to do certain expressions. But even though you ask the old man to prepare your Pokemon, you can't ask him to get rid of it. The only way to actually do that is to prepare to take a photo on the stage and say that you want to prepare by yourself. Pokemon games have a pretty bad reputation for having a lot of unnecessary menus and dialogue that waste your time. And as you can see, the photo studio is a pretty good example of that. So let's try to fix it. I remember that Pokemon Sword and Shield had a much better interface for their custom card maker, which is kind of similar to Legends Arceus' photo booth. At first, I thought I could copy a lot from here, but that actually doesn't work out too well. The Sword and Shield games are set in a modern time period, where it makes sense for their technology to have fancy customization, photo previews, and icons like this. But Pokemon Legends Arceus is set in an ancient time period where everything is low tech, and having a small preview on the side to give more space for the user interface doesn't fit well with the aesthetics of the game. So for my redesign, I aim to have the UI as unintrusive as possible. That means I had to limit the UI to only these portions of the screen. It was a bit difficult working with just that space, but I think I was able to pull something off that looks alright. I've now put every customization option in one place on the stage, and pretty much got rid of the old man, since it was a hassle having to go back and forth between those 2 points. The old man will still physically be there in the photo studio, and you can talk to him to get to the stage, but you won't be asking him to do other stuff like changing the filter, the screen, or adding a Pokemon. You might have noticed that I grouped some options together. That's because at first when I put every individual option on the screen, it looked a bit overwhelming, and grouping them made this interface feel much more manageable. Pose and expression seem to pair well together because they relate to your own body, and filter and screen pair well together because they relate to external factors. Now, let's see what it looks like when I want to change my pose and expression. I designed this to look like another interface in the game, which is the clothing shop. But unlike the clothing shop, you'll be able to see previews of each option so you don't have to guess by selecting them one by one. Instead of navigating through a bunch of tiny menus like before, you can simply use a joystick to scroll through the options now. To switch between pose and expression, all you have to do is use the L and R bumpers as indicated on the top right. For the photo previews, right now, I'm just using the character model of whoever your rival would be. But if I had access to all the game's character models, I would use photos of a bunch of the different people you meet throughout the game. Using photos of them would make it feel like they're a community coming together to help this photo studio set up shop, and this change would add some much needed life and backstory to the interface. For selecting the filter and background screen, it's pretty much the same as what I just showed. Preparing a Pokemon would be done just like before, but now you can do it here instead of having to leave and talk to the old man. And once your Pokemon is prepared, a couple more options would show up, letting you direct or remove it. When directing your Pokemon, it's pretty much the same as the old interface, but now stylized to fit my redesign. The reason there aren't picture previews here is that I don't think it makes sense for the photo studio to have picture previews of every single Pokemon on standby. And I don't think Game Freak would want to store pictures for all those either. So we'll just have to make do with text here. Finally, I made it so that at any time you can start shooting photos and hide the UI with a press of a button. And whenever you're shooting photos and want to make more edits, all you have to do is press any button and the interface will pop back up again for you to make changes. And that's it. I think my redesign makes the photo studio a lot better, and the key word here is efficiency. No more going back and forth between the stage and the old man to do things. No more sifting through tiny menus and having to select every option to preview it. These processes have been streamlined so that it's quick and easy to customize options for your perfect photo.